Hi, and welcome back to Football Made Simple. The business end of the Champions League is here, and the Alfredo Di Stefano Stadium was the stage for Zinedine Zidane's Real to take on Thomas Tuchel's Chelsea. Real have been doing well lately on the big stage, whilst Tuchel's team have been transformed since he came in, making it a finely poised encounter. And in the end it was, with the first leg ending 1-0 thanks to goals by PULISIC and Benzema. The XG showed that Chelsea were wasteful, 1.7 to 0.76. But what tactics did both managers use? Let's take a look. And speaking of European football, check out our mini documentary on the rise and fall of the European Super League, which will be linked down in the comments and at the end. A reminder of both managers' formations, with Zidane and Tuchel opting for the back three. Let's start with Real in possession. Courtois was usually able to find the centre-backs in the first phase, as Chelsea didn't push extremely high. Instead, Chelsea pressed with the front two of Werner and Pulisic, whilst Mount and Kante would provide the second line of pressure, with the wing-backs also ready to press. In the first half, Real were particularly poor in the build-up for a few reasons. Chelsea's press shape protected the centre well, which would have limited MODRIC and KROOS' impact initially, so the onus was on the wide centre-backs as they would be the only men in space. And Real looked to split their back three wide to make it difficult for Chelsea's front two to press. But Militao and Nacho are not great on the ball, so having them as the free men would be a bit of a waste. So we often saw KROOS drop to left centre back, as his passing range means that he's the man you want on the ball in space. This is usually effective for Real when they use a back four, as it means a highly attacking fullback in Marcelo or Ferland Mendy can push right up the pitch to make the difference. But here, Nacho would move higher, with Marcelo inverting into the KROOS position whilst Vinicius stayed high. Nacho here is not an offensive threat at all, and does not really contribute in the build-up, so whenever the ball came to him, he was an obvious press target, and he almost always went backwards when under pressure, meaning that the move was constantly slowed down here. In addition, Marcelo is great on the ball, but not as great as KROOS is up here, so the midfielder also wasn't optimized, so this left-hand shape generally didn't work aside from a few instances. This wasn't helped by MODRIC also starting wide on the right in the build-up, meaning that there were large gaps between KROOS and MODRIC. MODRIC did this to get time and space away from the centre, but also because where Vinicius could drift into the left wing position, Real didn't have a right winger, although Benzema could push wide. So MODRIC would instead look to combine with Carvajal down the right. But this often meant that Marcelo and Casemiro high were the only outlets through the centre, and both are pressable, meaning that the play could break down centrally. In the second half, Zidane adapted, with MODRIC operating much more centrally, meaning he played much closer to KROOS and they could keep the ball better, and MODRIC could help with this left-hand side overload. But Chelsea were solid defensively, meaning Real didn't create any real chances. But Chelsea were a much bigger offensive threat, so what did they look to do? When Chelsea had the ball deep, Real looked to press high, and Chelsea were often able to play through this, particularly down the right. The Real press shape had Vinicius drawn onto the right centre-back, with MODRIC on Rudiger, and KROOS and Casemiro often man-to-man with Chelsea's double pivot. So Chelsea would often look to work the ball into Azpilicueta at right wing-back, who would draw Marcelo, and if Pulisic also went deep, Nacho would stay tight to his man. With MODRIC high and a man-to-man press in the midfield, Real did not have a screening man behind the two midfielders, and there was plenty of space here. And Kante is extremely quick, especially for a central midfielder, so time and again he would easily get away from his marker into this space, and then look to play in a man, usually Werner. Alternatively, Chelsea could play through the centre. With Real man-to-man in the midfield, Chelsea's front three could either become a 1-2 with Mount or Pulisic between the lines, or both men could look to drop into the midfield to pick it up, and this did happen often, with the men looking to combine subsequently. Chelsea's fluidity continued higher up the pitch as well, again exploiting the positioning of Modric. We could often see Mount form a midfield three by dropping into the left central midfielder position. So he could often receive it on the wrong side of Modric, and Real could then look to respond with Carvajal tucking in narrower from right wing back to pick up this man. This would of course allow Chilwell into the space high up to receive the ball, and we can see how often he got touches high up. However, Chelsea also consistently looked to take advantage of the space behind the backline. When Pulisic or Mount were between the lines, Real often looked to commit a wide centre-back to prevent them receiving the ball. However, this left a gap in the defence, and both Azpilicueta and Chilwell would look to make the run into the space created to try and receive the chip ball. Werner and Havertz in the second half in particular would also drop deeper to make room for a second forward to run in behind, again for the chip ball. And this did lead to the opener. Rudiger is on the ball, and we see KROOS and Casemiro are high, looking to cover the Chelsea pivots, and Modric is also pressing high. This means that Mount is free between the lines, so Militao goes to press him, and Werner slightly deeper has drawn Varane's attention. Rudiger can then play the ball in behind in the space created, and Militao's positioning has affected the shape of the backline, so he's able to receive in behind. He rounds Courtois expertly, leading to the goal. In the second half, Real adapted much better by no longer looking to press Chelsea high up and instead sitting deeper, with Modric very much a part of the midfield three, making it harder to get between the lines. Overall, on the night, Chelsea were the superior team, with Kante being a standout performer. However, they may rue their missed chances in this game, but more Benzema brilliance means that Real are still well in this tie. But what did you make of the match? Drop it down in the comments below. A quick shout out to my Patreons for helping to make this video possible. If you want to support, head on over to patreon.com/footballmadesimple and you'll get rewards like early access to videos and exclusive content. And a special thanks to Vance Brown for his support on the Patreon Ultra tier. But that's all for today, and remember, keep it simple.